You can't do this to her. She's your mother. I didn't sign up for this. You want me to put a strong sleeping pill in her wine. She has a heart condition. It could kill her, says a man whose voice I would recognize over a million other voices. He is my beloved Johnny. And I have no idea what he is doing in my son's apartment right now and why they both want to put me to sleep. Let's get to know each other. I am Amy. Every Monday I cook lasagna, meatballs, pizza, and many other delicious things to fill my son's freezer and refrigerator with these dishes. He is constantly at work. He is the one who does not know the word rest. If I do not cook this for Simon, he will poison himself with hamburgers until he gets fat. He needs healthy food. He is prone to obesity, like his father. So I go to the supermarket every week. I buy fresh broccoli to stew with the turkey. I pick ripe mangoes to make Simon his favorite dessert. He doesn't have time to come to my house, so I load it all into portable coolers and put it in the trunk of my car. That was the case that morning. I simply packed my trunk with food in trays, 2 boxes of unreal homemade delicacies so that my son wouldn't deny himself anything. He gave me the keys to his apartment. He doesn't have an elevator, so I carry it all to the 4th floor on foot. I put it in his big silver refrigerator, but suddenly I hear someone come into the apartment. It's Simon and Johnny. They're arguing. I hear their dialogue, and my blood runs cold. You can't do that to her. She's your mother. I didn't sign up for this. You want me to put a strong sleeping pill in her wine. She has a heart condition. It could kill her, says Johnny. I'm not paying you to fall in love with her and now protect her, replies Simon. We had an agreement. You make her fall in love with you and persuade her to sell the house and supposedly move to California with you. I've already rented the house on the coast. Everything has to look like a fairy tale. She'll agree. She's dreamed of a house on the coast all her life, of living by the ocean. And now she's holding on to our family estate as if we'll all die without it. They're promising me $10 million for this land. They want to build a factory there. Our neighbors have already sold their plots of land. We're the only ones left. For that $10 million, I can buy 5 houses. I'll try to outsmart her, but let's go without the sleeping pill for now. If she falls asleep, how are we going to get her to the notary? Johnny asks my son. I'll sign for her, and the cameras will show that she was sitting at the table when the deal was made. I hide under the table so as not to give myself away. They don't come into the kitchen. Simon runs into the bathroom to find a sleeping pill for me in the cabinet behind the mirror. Johnny promises that he will manage. Simon gives him $2,000. You will get the remaining $10,000 when we sign the deal, my son promises my beloved. I can't believe my ears. When they leave, I am still packing the groceries in the refrigerator. I am still ready to give the last one to my son. And he wants to put me to sleep, poison me and cheat me. Now that you know who I am, let me tell you how I got here under my own child's table, smelling like tomato, basil, and betrayal. 6 months after my husband Daniel died, I met Johnny. Grief sat on my chest like a lazy cat back then, warm, heavy, unmovable, purring whenever I dared to laugh. Daniel and I had been the loud couple at block parties, the ones with the bocce balls and the best meatballs. We fought like Sicilian thunder and made up like a second honeymoon. Then the heart that hauled our groceries up 2 flights of stairs simply stopped mid-September while my eggplant parmesan was cooling. After the funeral, the casserole brigade dwindled, the phone stopped ringing, and I learned the terrible acoustics of a quiet kitchen. I met Johnny in the produce all the first week of March, because fate has a twisted sense of humor and apparently shops on Tuesdays. He was arguing with a cantaloupe, tapping it like it owed him money. You listen to fruit? I asked, leaning over the mangoes. He looked up with those slate blue eyes that could melt a freezer and said, only the stubborn ones. They tend to be the sweetest once they're ready. I should have known right then any man who flirts with cantaloupes has practice, but grief dulls more than appetite. It softens judgment too. He had gray at his temples and a beard that made him look like the good kind of pirate, the kind who rescues dogs and returns lost earrings. He called himself a widower. Her name was Marie. He said that first coffee, as if the name had teeth. He showed me photos, her in a cranberry sweater, 2 grown sons on either side, 4 granddaughters grinning like they owned the sun. I saw Thanksgiving tables, birthday balloons, a backyard swing. I believed all of it the way you believe spring will come again. He carried tenderness like an instrument. He knew just how to play it. He remembered to text good morning and good night. He learned that I take my coffee light and my lasagna heavy. He noticed when my ankle swelled and told me to put it up, then sat on the carpet and read recipes out loud like bedtime stories. Once upon a time, he'd say, and I'd snort laugh like a teenager. 62 looks damn good on me when I'm laughing. We took a trip in April, just a long weekend down to St. Simon's Island. He said the ocean mends things salt can reach. He carried my beach chair and my grief as if both belonged to him. We walked the pier at dusk. He put his jacket over my shoulders, and the gulls argued overhead like my aunts. I told him about Daniel's stubbornness and how he never once followed the GPS without cussing. Johnny told me about Marie's lemon bars and the way his youngest granddaughter said spaghetti like it was a secret spell. At night, in the hotel, he turned down the bed as if I were something rare, fragile. I remember thinking, how lucky the second chance arrives wearing kindness. Then morning came, and I scolded myself in the bathroom mirror for mentally picking out wedding flowers. Slow down, Amy, I told my reflection. You just learned how to sleep without checking the other pillow. I swore I'd take it slow. And then I didn't. I introduced him to my friend Leela first, because Leela is an ex-nurse with a lie detector built into her eyebrows. We met at the diner with the cranky waitress who calls everyone captain regardless of gender. Johnny charmed her into an extra side of bacon and Leela into a smile, no small achievement. He's attentive, Leela said later cautiously. That can be real, or it can be a show. Keep your wallet zipped and your eyes open. I patted her hand. Please, I've been a mother for 38 years. No one out manipulates me. Famous last words, embroidered on the pillow I never should have made. I introduced Johnny to Simon, next my practical son with a spreadsheet for a heart and a jawline that thinks it knows better. Johnny and Simon shook hands for the first time in my living room, or so I believed. They spoke stiffly, assessed each other like wrestlers before the bell, and then Simon softened. If you make my mother happy, he said, you'll have my respect. He even offered to book us a weekend on the coast to try the idea of you two in California, because Simon thinks life is a pilot episode that might get canceled. I baked chicken cutlets to celebrate their truce. Later, Johnny kissed my hair and murmured, he wants what's best for you. I didn't hear the hollowness in it, the way a compliment can echo when it's empty. By May, Johnny knew my rhythms, my Monday lasagnas, Tuesday deals at the pharmacy, Thursday walks past the old train depot. He learned the spacing of my pills and how I teased death by insisting on medium rare steak. He insisted I sit when I chopped onions because the heart is a diva, and while I grumbled, I loved that someone held the diva's coat again. He had opinions about my house, small, careful ones. Ever think of ocean light instead of these heavy drapes? He asked. You deserve sunrise in your living room. He said California like other people say heaven or clearance sale. The first crack in the pretty picture was a story he told twice with the dates wrong. He said his granddaughter turned 5 in June in one conversation and in October in another. I chalked it up to a mix-up. I forget where I put my reading glasses while they are on my head. Then he had an odd afternoon in July where he vanished for 8 hours without a text. He reappeared with flowers and the kind of apology that makes you feel like the unreasonable one, and I sucker, mother, heart patient accepted it. The photos of his family stayed persuasive, like wallpaper you stop seeing. He said he wanted to meet my neighbors. He brought cannoli and fixed Mrs. Duggan's garden hose. My world adjusted around him like a dress taken in. But now I am under my son's table while my 2 favorite men in the world talk about dosing me like a feral cat. My hands are steady, which is surprising. Maybe I learned something from all those years icing cakes. The trick is to breathe and keep your wrists sure. I watch Simon's shoes polished, impatient thud down the hall toward the bathroom, and I hear the mirror cabinet squeak. Johnny's voice drops to a whisper I would once have called tender. I said I'll manage. Give me time, he tells my son. She trusts me. Something in me rises at that something, older than grief, tougher than rage. Trust is a loan with interest, and I've paid enough. They leave. The door slams. The apartment shutters. I unfold from under the table, smooth my blouse, and finish labeling containers like a woman whose world is not on fire. Simon will come home tonight and find my writing, turkey plus broccoli, to minutes on high. He will imagine I heard none of it, that I am still the mother who believes what she wants, who brings mangoes to a battlefield. At home, I make tea that I don't drink. My hands know the root, kettle, mug, honey, while my eyes go somewhere harder. I take out the red leather notebook Daniel gave me on our 30th anniversary, the one I used to write grocery lists and gratitude in. Tonight it becomes a ledger. I write the date. I write Simon Tenham land deal, sleeping pill. I write Johnny paid $2,000. Fake widower? I draw a box around fake. Something solid in me clicks into place, like a safe door closing. I call Leela. I need a name. I tell her. A private investigator who won't get squeamish if feelings are involved. Leela never wastes sympathy when gasoline will do. I have a retired state trooper who owes me a favor. He knows how to keep a mouth shut. An hour later, I'm sitting across from a man named Bruno in a coffee shop that smells like burnt beans and good decisions. Bruno wears a suit that never asked for compliments and eyes that count exits. I slide Johnny's photos across the table. Him at the pier, him in my backyard, him at a sidewalk calf holding a cup like it's a prop. Bruno looks once, twice. You want the whole of him? He asks. I want his truth, I say. All of it. Bruno works fast for any lie to keep up. 3 days later, he returns with a folder that feels heavier than paper. Real name isn't Johnny, he says. He's a gamer, professional gambler when he can be, con artist when he can't. Did a year for fraud and petty theft. No marriage on record. No children. 2 years ago, he had a beard and brown hair. Now he's dyed gray for your benefit, ma'am. He's wanted in another state for running illegal gambling operations and grand-scale fraud. Women have filed complaints, cash for fake treatments, jewelry gone missing. He's good at being who you need until he needs what you have. He pauses. There's more. Of course there is. With men like him, the more is an entire second life. Bruno lays out Copy's mugshot with a beard, news blurbs, a bench warrant under a different name. I look at the photos until the two versions of him, my Johnny and this man, interfere like radio stations. He's working with my son, I say evenly. That part's new to me. Bruno nods. Your son's in deep with some developers. They've been buying up land around your family place for months. Yours is the last domino. If you fall, they cash out. Noted, I say, and I mean it like a verdict. I am not in the business of falling. I am in the business of feeding armies and outliving storms. Bruno tells me something else I already suspected, that the photos of Johnny's so-called family are a Pinterest collage with a side of stock images. He prints the originals he found online. There's Marie's cranberry sweater, only her name is Beth and she belongs to a dental clinic's holiday party. The granddaughters? A blogger's children from Minnesota. The sons? One is a real estate agent from Arizona. One is a mannequin with better cheekbones than morals. I laugh then, sharp, joyful. He cast a whole production, I say. Shame he hired such bad actors. I don't cry. Not because I'm steel, because I know exactly what to do when someone tries to feed me poison. I season the meal myself. Thanksgiving is coming, which is a dangerous holiday in my hands. People think it's about gratitude. I know it's also about guest lists and seating charts, battle plans, if you've lived long enough. I tell Bruno I need a favor that isn't strictly legal but tastes like justice. He raises an eyebrow. Careful, ma'am, always, I say. I have a heart condition. I measure the salt. Here's my plan, in broad strokes. I will host Thanksgiving. I will invite Johnny and, by his insistence, his family with their different FEs. I will insist harder. And I will invite my son, who has always preferred eating over thinking. I will set the table with the heavy plates and heavier consequences. If they bring sleeping pills to my table, they'll leave with an appetite for mercy they won't get. Leela will be there. She doesn't eat or drink anything she hasn't watched me open. She'll keep watch like a saint with a taser. Bruno will sit down the block in a nondescript sedan with the patience of a fisherman and the bite of a shark. Before any of that, there is a smaller, colder task. I drive past the old oak that Daniel carved our initials into and stop at the family estate, the land my grandparents traded Sundays and blisters to own. I touch the fence post, the way you touch a forehead in blessing. They think you're for sale. I tell the dirt, the birds, the ghosts. They are mistaken. I tuck the deed copy Bruno insisted I lock away into a metal box and slide it beneath the loose floorboard Daniel put in when the house was new. Men have always underestimated women who know where the floorboards give. That night, Johnny calls me, syrup in his voice. Miss me? He asks. I miss the truth, I say. He chuckles like I've flirted. I'm thinking we drive the coast after Thanksgiving. House hunting, baby. House hunting. He thinks he's hunting me. Let him. There's a reason the casserole queen survives every family war. She feeds you until you're slow. Then she shows you the door. I hang up and text Simon. Thanksgiving at my place. Be on time. Wear a decent shirt. He replies with a thumbs up and a turkey emoji, like a child who hasn't learned that birds bite. I set my shopping list on the counter: turkey, rosemary, pie pumpkins, and a surprise he won't taste until it floors him. Not poison, please. I'm not the villain of anyone's bedtime story. But justice can be served chilled and in writing, stamped, notarized, and escorted by two very patient police officers who adore pumpkin pie. I sharpen my knives. I polish grandma's silver. I practice my smile in the mirror, not the one I give to salespeople or strangers. The one I wore when Daniel and I outbid a bully at the school auction because he thought we couldn't. It's a smile with teeth. On my kitchen chalkboard, under the week's menu, I write in big, looping letters, "A criminal belongs in prison, not in my heart." Under that, "And a son who forgets his mother will remember courtesy by consequence." Outside, November breathes frost against the windows. Inside, my oven preheats steady and sure. If the devil is in the details, he can pull up a chair at my table. He'll find place cards, clean napkins, and a lesson folded right beside the fork. Tomorrow, I'll make the cranberry sauce that stains, the kind that never lets you forget where you spilled it. And on Thanksgiving Day, when glasses clink and schemes curdle, someone will finally drink what they've been pouring for me. Spoiler, it won't be me. In the 10 days between the Eavesdroped betrayal and Thanksgiving, I became to Amy's. There was the one Johnny knew, soft, dazzled, making lists with hearts over the eyes. Then there was the other one, a woman with a ledger, a locksmith on speed dial, and a private detective who took his coffee the same way he took confessions, black and without sugar. I started easy. I let Johnny take me to lunch at the bistro with the fake ivy and the real prices. He fussed over my chair, ordered the Pinot I like to smell more than sip, my cardiologist's voice in my head like a metronome, and told me again about the little beach place he'd found in California. 2 blocks from the ocean, baby. You wake to gulls and go to sleep to waves. His voice did that velvet thing that used to make me close my eyes. Now I kept them open and counted his lies the way I count minutes when bread is rising. Send me photos, I said, bright as foil. He hesitated, then smiled. It's a surprise. Of course it is. Honest men are generous with details. Liars are generous with adjectives. I played my part with flourishes. I asked about Marie in the past tense like he deserved sympathy, stroked his arm when he talked about the granddaughters I now knew belonged to a Minnesota blogger and a good filter. I even asked if his sons could come to Thanksgiving. He cleared his throat, the first wobble in his choreography. They have, different FEs, he said. Appearances, flights. FEs, appearances, flights. He might as well have said costumes and stagehands. We'll make do, I told him. Family is priceless. Then I paid the lunch bill before he could reach for my wallet with his eyes. After lunch, I took the long way home and stopped at a notary I trust, the kind who keeps peppermints and secrets. We had coffee at her back desk, and I slid a folder to her. Affidavits, copies of deeds, a letter attesting to my full capacity and sound mind, witnessed and dated. Stamp everything that looks important, I told her. And if anyone tries to bring you documents with my name this week, you call me first, then you press the panic button. She chuckled. You always were my favorite kind of trouble. I'm every con man's worst kind, I said. Organized. Bruno texted me updates like weather alerts. Your boy met with Simon Coffee. No paper exchanged. Names of developers, Ravenna Industrial. Then, Johnny used a prepaid phone this morning. Bought at a pharmacy on Elm. He's got another alias, Jack Norcross. Active warrant stands. I read these messages while stirring cranberry sauce, the berries popping like small, satisfied truths. Leela came over with her knitting needles and a face like a sermon. Tell me you're not going to poison them, she said by way of hello. Please, I said, flicking the burner down. I'm a cook, not a cartoon. I'll let them poison themselves. Men like that always do. We stage managed Thanksgiving the way generals plan parades. I wrote to-do lists and taped them inside cabinet doors. Stock, pies, bread, seating chart. Under the seating chart I wrote tiny notes only I would see. Next to Simon's name, watch his hands. Next to Johnny's seat, camera has line of sight. Leela installed a discreet nanny cam on the hutch, tucked inside a porcelain hen that had been judging me since 1989. Bruno insisted I keep the front door key in my apron pocket and the back door bolted. If it goes sideways, he said, you text me one word, gravy. You're kidding, I said. No one suspects a text about gravy, he replied. He had a point. If you had walked into my house that week, you'd have thought you were inside a Thanksgiving magazine spread from a hopeful year. I roasted chestnuts. I cubed stale bread and made it delicious. I rubbed butter under the turkey's skin the way my grandmother taught me, which is to say with reverence. I polished the candlesticks, tightened the wobbly leg on the dining table, and put the good lace runner out of reach of clumsy elbows. Somewhere above all that work, a calm descended, the kind that comes when you've stopped begging for fairness and started building your own. On Wednesday, the phone calls began. Johnny first. Of course, syrup and sentiment. My eldest might not make it, he said, voice tight. Work. I could hear pages turning in the background, as if he were flipping a prop calendar. Invite whoever you can, I said sweetly. I want a full table. Then Simon, brisk. Mom, do not go overboard. Keep it simple. He knows telling me that is like telling the Mississippi to keep it shallow. Wear a decent shirt, I reminded him. And bring that cranberry relish you like so much. He hates cranberry relish. Fine, he said, suspicious. My son once tried to outmaneuver me in chess. I checkmated him with 2 pawns and a smile. He has never forgiven me for enjoying it. When I couldn't sleep, I walked the house in my slippers, touching the old places, the spot where Daniel patched drywall after Simon launched a Tonka truck, the nick in the banister where my bangles always catch, the window latch that sticks no matter how I coax it. I spoke to Daniel in the dark like I used to when he pretended to be asleep. You'd hate this, I whispered. You'd want to break something, then fix it. I put my palm on the cool hallway wall. I'm fixing it my way. In the downstairs bathroom, I opened the cabinet behind the mirror, the one I'd watched Simon open in his apartment in search of a pill, and I took out every bottle. Painkillers, antacids, sleepy time teas. I locked them in a tin, turned the tin key, and wore it like a necklace under my blouse for 2 days straight. If someone wanted to medicate me in my own home, they would have to wring it out of me, and I do not wring. Thanksgiving morning arrived bright and brittle. The house smelled like every good decision I've ever made: onions sweating in butter, thyme, the brown sugar glaze on carrots, the kind of coffee that makes apologies unnecessary. I wore the green dress Leela says brings out my eyes and a lipstick named after a scandal. I pinned my hair up in the way Daniel used to call my "let me tell you something" style. Then I put on my apron, the one with pockets deep enough to hide a church mouse and a small revolution. In the left pocket, my phone, screen brightness up, Bruno's text thread open. In the right, the notary's card, a Sharpie, and a pair of reading glasses tethered to my dignity. Leela arrived first, carrying a pie in a box like a bomb she did not trust. I made this at my house, she announced. No one breathed on it except me. She kissed my cheek, then did a sweep of the kitchen in one glance. Stove, counters, sink, garbage can. No one accounted for glasses, she said. Good girl. I rolled my eyes. I directed community theater. I can spot a misplaced prop in a blackout. We set the table together, like we've done since the year our kids were in kindergarten, and stole napkin rings to use as bracelets. I placed the wine glasses upside down until it was time to pour. Leela raised an eyebrow. Paranoid? Prepared, I said. I put my own water glass by my plate and drew a small star under its coaster with the Sharpie. Leela did the same to hers and whispered, "There's nothing men fear more than women who organize." The doorbell rang at 2 sharp. I wiped my hands and went to the door with the expression of a hostess and the heart of a bouncer. Johnny stood there with a bouquet of supermarket flowers he'd tortured into a smile and a man behind him who had my son's nervous shrug. "This is Matthew," Johnny said, placing a hand on the stranger's shoulder with a fatherly flourish. "My boy." The man, tall, hair to neat, eyes calculating, gave me a smile that wanted to be charming and settled for cooperative. I had to give Johnny this. He'd found a better actor. Or maybe the cast had been cut for budget. "Matthew, welcome," I said, stepping aside. "Shoes off, please. House rule." He blinked like I'd asked for a DNA sample, then complied. Johnny kissed my cheek with a familiarity that used to be home and now felt like someone else's jacket. "Smells like heaven," he murmured. "Just my kitchen," I said. "Heaven requires fewer timers." Leela materialized at my elbow like a very pretty guard dog. "You must be Matthew," she said, smiling with no teeth. "I'm Leela. I used to work in inner. I can spot a feint before it happens." Matthew laughed aloud. Johnny did not laugh at all. Simon arrived 10 minutes later, already flushed and fidgeting. He hugged me with the arms of a boy who didn't hug enough when it still mattered, then stepped back and took in the table. "Looks good, Mom." His eyes flicked to Johnny and Matthew and tightened. For men who thought they were choreographing, they were astonishingly bad at hiding that they'd rehearsed. "Everyone's here?" Simon asked. Everyone who's coming, I said lightly, and watched him try to do the math on that. We did the pleasant dance. I passed canapes. Leela dispensed napkins. Johnny poured sparkling water like wine and told a story about Marie basting turkeys with a pastry brush. Matthew nodded on cue. Simon forced small talk that skittered into silence like a startled crab. Let's sit, I said finally, because I could feel the pressure building like a pot with a tight lid. Places were taken, plates admired. I carved with ceremony. I served my son the biggest slice of breast meat because he's always liked dry food he can drown in gravy. I poured wine to modest splashes for my guests, none for myself. Leela lifted her glass, sniffed, and set it down. The porcelain hen watched from the hutch, her beady little camera eye unblinking. I said grace in the voice my grandmother taught me, grateful, definite. For the food, for the hands that made it, for the hearts that might yet learn better. Johnny's eyes flicked up. He felt that last part hit the table like a place card. We ate. I asked Matthew about his work. He worked in logistics, which is con artist for I'm not going to be specific. I asked which company. He said, a private one. I nodded like that answer belonged in polite society. Simon complimented the stuffing. I patted his hand and said, it's the bread you used to refuse, and watched his face do the small grief of remembering who he was before money started making offers. At some point, Johnny stood to help with the dishes and carried a stack of plates to the kitchen. Leela tracked him like a hawk with a nursing license. I followed at an angle that said hostess and thought, showtime. Johnny reached for the wine on the counter. He palmed his pocket, the way young men do with gum wrappers and older cons do with pills. Leela coughed, a pointed little sound. He smiled at her, all teeth. Then he stepped into the pantry alcove 3 seconds where he was off my sightline and on the hen cams. When he emerged, he was humming. He lifted to glasses. I glanced at the underside of my coaster and saw the star. I wasn't drinking wine anyway, but my hand hovered over the stem for the benefit of our audience of 3. Simon came in from the dining room to grab more gravy. He grazed my shoulder like he used to when he was tall enough to reach but not tall enough to be careful. Everything okay? He asked, eyes darting from Johnny to the glasses to me. Perfect, I said, because I was the one with the script now. We returned to the table. Johnny set a glass near my plate with a flourish and a second in front of himself. I tapped mine gently, so it chimed. To second chances, he said, lifting his. And to the women who make them possible. Leela watched the rim of my glass like it might confess. I did not drink. Instead, I dabbed my mouth with my napkin and leaned to adjust the salt cellar, as if the napkins required feng shui. In that small choreography, between the lift of my elbow and the tilt of my head, Simon reached for the wrong glass. It happened quicker than a heartbeat, which is saying something for a woman who measures everything in beats. He grabbed the glass Johnny had placed for me, lifted it in a half toast to no one, and took 2 greedy swallows. He put it down, licked his lip, and reached for the gravy boat. Johnny froze, the kind of stillness a deer knows right before the truck. I kept talking. I complimented Matthew's tie, which was trying too hard to be a tie and failing. Leela kicked me lightly under the table to say, now what? I smiled like a woman who'd just tasted her own pie and found it perfect. More salad, Simon? I asked. He nodded, forked a mountain onto his plate, and shoveled in a bite like a man in a hurry to get through a scene. 3 minutes later, Simon's eyelids did a slow, theatrical blink. He tried to say something, probably mom, but the O got lost and the M fell asleep first. His forehead met his salad with a sound that would have been funny if it were broccoli and less funny because it was my child. The romaine cushioned him like a very green pillow. Johnny lunged. Leela's chair scraped. Matthew half stood. I folded my napkin and set it beside my plate. Neat as church. Oh dear, I said, with the softness good mothers save for scraped knees and stupid plans. Simon's tired. Johnny looked at me, color draining. He must be exhausted, he stammered. Leela's eyes were daggers wrapped in silk. Or something else, she said sweetly. Matthew adjusted his tie that didn't need adjusting and sat down again like a man deciding whether his paycheck included triage. I put my hand on Simon's shoulder and pressed just enough to keep his head from slipping. His breathing was fine. Men like them never think through dosage math for a woman with a heart condition and an appetite for dessert. They overdo it. They always overdo it. I lifted my gaze to Johnny. Well, I said, bright as a brand new dime. What now? Let's go. Why wait? I'll sign everything I need to sign. That's what you wanted, isn't it? His mouth opened, closed. Amy, only I won't be signing the papers to sell the house, I continued, cheerful as a TV anchor between segments. I'll be signing your sentence. Johnny's chair creaked like a confession. Leela's hand slid to her phone. The porcelain hen watched, unblinking. I reached into my apron pocket and brushed my thumb over the screen, ready to text one word to the man in the car down the block who loves pumpkin pie. Gravy. Johnny's face drains to the color of old milk. His lips move, but no sound makes it out. Simon's snoring into a Caesar salad, croutons sticking to his cheek like guilty freckles. Leela's already got her phone out, pretending to check a recipe. And me? I'm calm, dangerously calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a thunderstorm rips off your roof. You don't understand, Amy, Johnny stammers finally, his hand trembling on his fork. It's not what it looks like. Oh honey, I say, leaning back in my chair and folding my napkin with slow precision. It's exactly what it looks like. You just didn't think I'd get a front row seat. He opens his mouth again, but I raise one finger. Save the encore, Johnny. Or should I say, Jack Norcross. That gets him. His eyes widen. His chair scrapes backward. Leela, God bless her, lets out a low whistle like she's watching the final round of a boxing match. Sit, I tell him. You've lied enough standing up. He hesitates, calculating. He could run, but where? Bruno's parked at the end of my driveway, engine idling, eyes sharp as a hawk. And Johnny Jack, whatever name he's using this month, has that twitchy look of a gambler who knows the house always wins eventually. Let me explain, he says, palms out. I love when men start with that, I reply. It's never let me apologize or let me confess. It's let me explain, as though the truth were a piece of fine china they just forgot to unpack. Leela can't help herself. You want me to fetch the good china, Amy? Not yet. I say, let's hear our guest out. Johnny swallows. Simon approached me first. He starts. He said he needed help convincing you to sell, that you were too attached to that old house. I thought maybe I could talk to you gently. But then you decided to romance me into it? I interrupt. Play the grieving widower with his ready-made granddaughters and stock photo family? You had props, Johnny, props. His cheeks flush red, and he looks at the table like it might swallow him. At first, yeah, but then I fell for you, Amy. I did. His voice cracks just enough to sound like the truth's evil cousin, emotion with no evidence. Leela snorts. Sure, and I fell for Santa Claus in '78. Johnny glares at her. You don't know what it's like. I know a con when I smell one. She shoots back. And this one's overcooked. I stand, slow and deliberate, every muscle remembering how much I've given to men, to children, to fools. You fell for me, Johnny. Spare me. You fell for my deed, my savings, my son's 10 grand. Don't romanticize theft. It's still just theft. He looks panicked now, eyes darting between me and the window, where the faint glow of Bruno's headlights flickers through the curtains. Amy, listen, if we work together, we? Oh darling. I lean forward, lowering my voice to a purr sharp enough to cut glass. You and my son already work together. I'm the one doing the cleanup, and that's when the doorbell rings. Leela jumps. Johnny freezes. Even Simon lifts his head slightly, murmuring something about gravy before his forehead slides back into the lettuce. I glance at the door and smile. Right on time. It's Bruno. He steps in like a man who doesn't need introductions, broad shoulders, calm eyes, the quiet of competence. He nods at me first, then at Leela, then lands on Johnny with a look that could dry paint. Jack Norcross, he says evenly. You really should have stayed in Arkansas. They still have a warrant waiting for you. Johnny's whole body stiffens. I didn't do. Bruno holds up a hand. Save it. The police will want to hear your side. They always do. Doesn't change the booking photo. Police? Johnny croaks. I tilt my head, sweet as pie. Oh yes. I figured you'd appreciate a reunion with law enforcement. They've missed you. Johnny's voice breaks. Amy, please don't do this. You don't understand. I was in deep. I owed money. Simon, he offered me a way out. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I thought we could just fake it until the deal went through. And then what? I snap. You'd vanish with the money? Or with me? He says nothing. His silence is an answer I've heard before from men who mistake softness for stupidity. Bruno moves closer. Cuffs or no cuffs, ma'am, I pause. Let's skip the cuffs for now. I want him conscious when Simon wakes up, as if on cue. Simon groans. His head lifts from the salad, face shiny with dressing. What happened? Oh, nothing, I say brightly. You just had a taste of your own medicine. Literally. He blinks confused, then horrified as his gaze lands on Johnny and Bruno. Mom, what's going on? Leela crosses her arms. Your mom caught you red-handed, sweetie. Red as cranberry sauce. Simon staggers to his feet, clutching the chair for balance. This isn't what you think. Stop right there, I say, my voice sharper than I knew it could be. You don't get to rewrite this scene, Simon. I heard everything in your apartment. You wanted to drug me, forge my signature, and sell the only home this family ever built with its hands. You didn't just betray me, you tried to erase me. He opens his mouth, closes it again. That silence, the same one his father used when guilt came knocking, makes my stomach twist. Do you know what hurts the most? I continue. Not the scheme, not the lies. It's that you thought I wouldn't fight back. You thought I'd just sleep through it. His eyes fill with something like shame, but I've stopped grading emotions. Mom, I was desperate, he says. I lost money, bad investments. I thought I could fix it. You always fix things. Not this time, I tell him. You've trespassed. You can't insult your mother and stay under her roof. He flinches. Mom, please? You want to make millions? Work, like your father and I did. With your hands, your mind, your spine. I'm not your bank, and I'm not your victim. Bruno clears his throat softly. Ma'am, the officers are outside. You ready? I nod. Johnny's shoulders slump, defeat seeping into him like spilled wine. Amy, he whispers. I meant some of it. The dinners, the laughter, it was real. Maybe, I say. But so was Daniel. And you're not half the man he was on his worst day. Bruno gestures to the door. Time to go, Jack. As they lead him out, Johnny turns once, his eyes glassy with something I might have mistaken for love a month ago. I close the door gently behind them. Leela exhales, then bursts out laughing, a raw, relieved laugh that shakes the air. Holy hell, Amy. You should have been in the CIA. I prefer the kitchen, I say. Less paperwork, more seasoning. Simon sinks back into his chair, pale and sweating. Mom, I can't believe it, I interrupt. You're lucky I didn't let him dose you again for dessert. He drops his head into his hands. For a moment, I almost pity him. Almost. Leela pats my shoulder. You handled that like a woman who's been betrayed before. I smile faintly. Oh, Leela, once you've survived marriage and motherhood, everything else is just improv. That night, the house is quiet again, quiet, but in a new way. No danger humming under the floorboards. No lies clinging to the curtains. I washed the last dish myself. Simon's gone. He packed a bag and left without a word. That's fine. Let him learn who he is without me patching his holes. When the sink is empty, I pour myself tea and sit at the table, staring at the empty chair across from me. I half expect Daniel to appear, smirking, proud. Told you you'd outsmart them, he'd say. You were always the sharp one. Instead, it's just me and the sound of the fridge humming like applause. I scroll through my phone absently, deleting messages from Johnny, from unknown numbers, from Simon's silence. Then, in the middle of my contacts, I see a name I haven't looked at in years. Net. Net was the one who almost was the man I pushed away when Daniel came back with promises. We never quite happened, but his name has lingered like the scent of rain on dry soil. He's still there on Instagram, his profile photo gray-haired, eyes kind. His last post, a photo of a lake at sunset. Caption, still waiting for something worth the wait. My fingers hover. Then I type, hey, stranger, remember me? I don't expect an answer, but a minute later, the screen lights up. Amy? Of course I remember. How are you? I stare at the words for a long time. How am I? I type back. Wiser, hungrier, a little dangerous. He replies with a laughing emoji. Sounds like my kind of woman. Want to catch up over coffee? For the first time in months, maybe years, I smile without bitterness. I look around my kitchen, the battlefield finally mine again, and whisper, why not? Maybe the lesson isn't to stop trusting. Maybe it's to trust myself first and never let anyone else mix my drink again. Because love, I've learned, is best served strong, unsweetened, and without a single damn sleeping pill. When a woman has been betrayed, there are two paths, bitterness or rebirth. I've walked the first road before. It's narrow, cold, and smells faintly of self-pity. This time, I'm taking the other one. I'm 62, not senile, and I've still got good legs, a sharp tongue, and a pulse that refuses to quit. The morning after Thanksgiving, I brewed a pot of coffee strong enough to wake the ancestors and opened all the windows. The house needed to breathe. It had seen too much deceit lately. Lies stick to curtains like grease. Outside, the air was clean, bright, cold enough to sting. I liked it that way. I needed the sting. Bruno came by later to drop off some paperwork and to tell me that Johnny or Jack was officially booked. They'll extradite him in a few days, he said, sipping my coffee like a man who knew it was too strong but wouldn't dare complain. Your son's name came up in statements, but since he never got money or forged anything, the DA's office might skip charges if you don't push it. I won't, I said. I'm not protecting him. I'm just done mothering grown men. Bruno nodded, like that was the best thing he'd heard all week. He left, tipping his hat at the doorway like some noir gentleman out of another century. I watched his car disappear, then locked the door behind him and whispered to the empty kitchen, that's enough betrayal for one lifetime. But the universe, ever the comedian, doesn't let you rest long. 2 days later, my phone pinged with a message that made me laugh out loud, a real laugh, the kind that startled even me. Net, you still drink coffee or have you switched to something fancier? I grinned. Amy, still coffee, still strong enough to strip paint. Net, perfect. There's a new place on Maple. Thursday, 11? I typed back before I could overthink it. I'll be there. That Thursday, I spend a little more time than usual getting ready. Nothing foolish, just a touch of mascara, my favorite scarf, and perfume I hadn't worn since before Daniel died. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and said aloud, look at you, Amy. Still standing, still dangerous. The cafe on Maple was bright and busy, full of young people typing like their keyboards were confessors. Then there he was, Net, not as I remembered, but better. Age had softened him in all the right ways. He stood, smiling that quiet smile of his, and I swear my knees remembered things my head had forgotten. Amy, he said, with warmth that filled the space between us. You look older, wiser, and still allergic to flattery. I cut in. Sit before I faint from cliches. He laughed, that low rumble that used to undo me. We sat, the years between us folded like napkins. We talked for 2 hours straight about everything and nothing. He'd moved back to town after his wife passed, built a little carpentry business, stayed out of trouble. I told him about losing Daniel, about Simon edited for Decency, and about the house I refused to sell. You've always been loyal to the land, he said, stirring his coffee. It's one of the things I liked about you. Liked? I raised an eyebrow. Past tense? He smiled. Let's call it ongoing. There it was, that pulse of possibility. It scared me a little. After everything with Johnny, I thought my heart would have barricaded itself for good. But sitting there with Net, I felt something I hadn't in months. Ease. No performance, no hidden script. Just two people with history and a second chance sitting quietly between them. He asked me to dinner that Sunday. I said yes before I could invent a reason to say no. That weekend, Simon called. The phone lit up with his name, and I stared at it for a long while before answering. Mom, he said, voice rough, uncertain. I wanted to check on you. I'm fine, I replied. Your salad, however, is still traumatized. He let out a weak laugh. I deserve that. Deserve worse, I said evenly. Then softer. But you're still my son. There was a long pause. I was stupid, Mom. Greedy. I thought I could fix my messes by getting ahead. You tried to get ahead by cutting me down, I said. That's not how family works. That's not how you work. You were raised better. He was quiet for a while. Then, I know, I'll make it right. I don't need your promises, I told him. I just need you to live honestly. You don't owe me apologies, Simon. You owe yourself some dignity. He sniffed, my grown man, still a boy when it came to guilt. I'll call again soon. Do that, I said, and hung up. I didn't cry. I'd already used up my tears on people who didn't deserve them. Sunday evening, I met Ned at a little Italian place that smelled of basil and second chances. He held my chair, ordered a Chianti, and when the waiter left, said quietly, "You've been through something." I looked at him, half smiling. Is it that obvious? He shrugged. Only to someone who's been through something too. And just like that, the walls dropped. I told him not everything, but enough. About Johnny's lies, about Simon's scheme, about how close I'd come to being the fool everyone assumed I already was. Ned listened without interruption. When I finished, he just reached across the table and took my hand. You're the bravest woman I've ever known, he said simply. Brave? I was gullible enough to believe a man with stock photo grandchildren. Bravery isn't about never being fooled, he said. It's about not letting it kill your spirit. Something in me eased. just a little. Maybe the heart can be bruised and still beat steady. Dinner turned into dessert. Dessert turned into a walk. The night air smelled of rain. We strolled through the quiet streets, and when we reached my car, he stopped. Amy, he said, I don't know what you want right now, but I'd like to see you again. I looked up at him, the kind, steady eyes, the hands that had built things instead of breaking them, and said, you just did. Then, softer, and yes, I'd like that too. When I got home, I poured myself tea and sat at the table again. The same one where Johnny's lies had collapsed and Simon's shame had wilted. But now it felt different. Like the air had changed teams. I picked up my red leather notebook and wrote 3 lines. 1. Never confuse loneliness with love. 2. Trust only what can survive daylight. 3. Forgive, but never forget the recipe for revenge. Then, on a whim, I added a 4th. Maybe, just maybe, there's still a reason to laugh again. I slept well that night. No ghosts, no guilt, just the hum of my old house keeping time with my heart. But peace, as I've learned, never lasts too long when your name is Amy and the universe loves a plot twist. The next morning, I found a letter in my mailbox with no return address. My name, written in a hand I recognized too well, Simon's. I stood on the porch, the paper trembling just a little between my fingers. Well, I muttered, let's see what kind of repentance we're serving today. I opened it, and what I read made me drop my coffee right onto the steps. Because it wasn't an apology. It was a warning. And the man I thought was gone might not be gone at all. I stood on the porch, the letter trembling in my hand, my coffee spreading a dark stain across the wooden steps like some grim omen. The handwriting was unmistakably Simon's, my son who'd never been much for pen and paper unless there was a $sign involved. I tore it open, half dreading what I'd find, half sure it was another apology wrapped in excuses. But there were no apologies, no excuses, only a few lines, written fast, the ink slightly smudged. Mom, be careful. Johnny's not in custody anymore. They say he escaped during transport 2 nights ago. Don't stay alone. I'll explain everything when I can. Please, trust no one. Simon, my heart did something strange, one of those double beats my doctor keeps telling me to monitor. I read it twice, then a 3rd time, as though repetition could change the words. Johnny had escaped? I went inside, shut the door, and bolted it. For a moment, the silence of my kitchen turned hostile. Every creak of the house sounded like a footstep. Every shadow felt like a hand reaching for me. I'd lived through betrayal before, but betrayal doesn't prepare you for pursuit. I poured myself more coffee, though my hands shook enough to spill half of it, and stared out the window. The old oak outside swayed in the wind. Its branches looked like the arms of something ancient trying to warn me. I wasn't about to panic. Panic is for amateurs. I've had heart surgery, raised a man-child, buried a husband, and taken down a con artist with a gravy boat. If Johnny thought he could scare me, he'd picked the wrong widow. I called Bruno. Tell me this is some bureaucratic mix-up, I said without preamble. There was a pause on the line. Wish I could, Amy, he said. They were moving him between facilities. Van broke down on a rural stretch. 2 guards, one asleep, one bleeding. He's gone. I closed my eyes. Do they think he'll come after me? They think he's running. But I've seen men like him before. Some don't run away. They circle back. You humiliated him, Amy. Took the power he feeds on. That's not something he'll forgive easily. I'm not looking for his forgiveness, I said sharply. I'm looking for prevention. Lock your doors. Stay with someone if you can. I'll handle it. Damn it, Amy, I said I'll handle it. I hung up. The next few days passed like a bad dream, wrapped in perfect normalcy. I went to the market, smiled at neighbors, texted Net good morning. I even baked because nothing steadies the soul like the smell of cinnamon and control. But underneath it all, I was alert. Every noise, every passing car, every unfamiliar number calling my phone, I logged it all in the red notebook. Net noticed, of course. You seem jumpy, he said one evening as we sat on my porch with 2 mugs of cocoa and a sunset that deserved better company. Do I? I asked. He nodded. You look like someone waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe I'm just tired of being Cinderella, I said lightly. He chuckled. Well, if you ever need backup, I've got 2 hands and 1 mean swing with a hammer. I smiled. Good to know. Still, I didn't tell him. Not yet. I wanted to believe Johnny was long gone. I wanted to believe Simon was just being paranoid. But that night, while washing dishes, I caught sight of something that shattered that illusion entirely. Across the street, parked under the flickering streetlight, was a dark sedan. Nothing unusual except it had been there for 3 nights straight. Same spot, same time, no movement. I turned off the faucet, watched, waited. Then, as if on cue, the driver's side window rolled down an inch. A cigarette ember glowed faintly in the dark. My pulse slowed, not sped up. The opposite of fear, cold clarity. I went to the drawer, pulled out the small revolver Daniel had kept just in case. I'd never used it, but I knew how. My father had taught me long before Daniel ever met me. I checked the chamber loaded and placed it in the top drawer of the hallway table. I wasn't planning on using it, but I also wasn't planning on dying unprepared. Then I called Leela. "Tell me you're not sitting alone," she said after one sentence from me. "Of course I am," I replied, "but don't worry. I've got company. A gun, a flashlight, and a mean temper. I'm coming over," she said. "Don't. If it's him, I don't want anyone else involved. Amy Leela," I said firm. "Let me do this my way," she sighed. "Fine, but if you don't text me every hour, I'm sending Bruno and a SWAT team." That night, I slept on the couch with the lamp on and the revolver beside me. It felt dramatic, like something out of an old noir movie, but I didn't care. Somewhere around a.m., I heard the crunch of gravel in the driveway. I didn't move at first, just listened. Another crunch. Then a faint metallic sound like a key trying to flirt with a lock that didn't belong to it. That's when I sat up, quiet as a cat, gun in hand. "Johnny," I whispered, though my voice was steady. "If that's you, darling, you picked the wrong encore." The doorknob rattled once, then stopped. I waited. 10 seconds, 20, a full minute, then footsteps, retreating. I peeked through the curtains. The sedan's brake lights flared once, then faded down the street. I exhaled slowly. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. He was here. He'd come back. And that meant I wasn't just dealing with revenge anymore. I was dealing with obsession. The next morning, I called Bruno again. "He was here," I said. "Describe the car." I did. He sighed. "Same make and model reported stolen yesterday from the next county." "It's him. Stay inside, Amy. I'll have someone watch your place." "Don't bother," I said. "I have a better idea, Amy," but I'd already hung up. Because I wasn't planning to hide. I was planning to end this. That afternoon, I drove into town and parked 2 blocks from the same coffee shop where Johnny Jack had first told me about Marie. I knew men like him. They're creatures of habit, nostalgia. If he wanted to rattle me, he'd come somewhere familiar. I ordered a coffee, sat by the window, and waited. Sure enough, around 3 o'clock, the door opened and there he was. Clean shaven this time, hair dyed darker, but the walk was unmistakable. Cocky, rehearsed. A man who believed the world still owed him an audience. He saw me instantly, froze, then smiled. "Well," he said, walking over like this was some accidental reunion. "If it isn't my favorite chef, careful," I said, sipping my coffee. "You might still have a little cyanide from last time." He laughed, though his eyes didn't. "You're a hard woman to scare." "I scare just fine," I said. "I just do it privately, with better lighting." He slid into the chair across from me without asking. "You didn't press all the charges." "That was kind of you." "I wasn't being kind," I said. "I was being strategic. A man like you needs to think he's free before he walks into his own trap." He tilted his head. "You think you've trapped me, Amy?" I smiled. "Oh, sweetheart, I know I have." He chuckled low, leaning closer. "You've got nerve. I'll give you that. But I didn't come here for games. I came to make things right." "Make things right?" I repeated. "Johnny, you can't even make eye contact without lying." He smirked. "You've still got fire. That's why I liked you. You were never boring." "Neither are rattlesnakes," I said. "But I don't invite them in twice." He sat back assessing. "I just want what's fair. I lost everything because of you. The least you can do is help me start over. A little cash. No cops. I disappear. You sleep better." I stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. "You're right. I do sleep better when I help people." His eyes lit up hope, arrogance, stupidity all in one glance. "Then I cut him off. "Which is why I told the police you'd come here." He blinked. "What?" I leaned back, calm as ever. "You're predictable, Johnny. You always come back to the scene of your charm. You forget that I was a wife for 30 years. I know how to read a man who thinks he's smarter than everyone else." Outside, I saw the flash of blue lights turning the corner. Johnny's jaw tightened. Me, I said. "You should have stayed gone, darling. But you couldn't help yourself." Could you? You always wanted one more hand, one more win. He stood, but the officers were already inside. One grabbed his arm. The other recited the same words he'd ignored the first time. He struggled, cursed, then really looked at me for the first time without performance. Was any of it real, Amy? He asked as they dragged him out. I met his gaze. It is now. When they took him away, the calf exhaled. I finished my coffee, left a tip, and walked out into the sunlight. Bruno met me at the corner, arms crossed, half amused, half exasperated. You could have gotten yourself killed. Maybe, I said. But I've already been dead once. Heart attack. 2018. This was just a sequel. He shook his head. You're unbelievable. I prefer unforgettable. As I drove home, the wind whipped through the open window, and for the first time in months, I felt truly alive. No fear, no tension, just the sweet, quiet relief of a woman who'd outplayed the devil twice. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Nut's truck parked out front. He was sitting on the porch with a bag of groceries and that gentle, lopsided grin that could melt granite. You okay? He asked as I stepped out. Better than okay, I said. Hungry. He laughed. Then let's fix that. As we carried the groceries inside, I thought of everything I'd lost and everything I'd found. Men can lie, money can vanish, but courage, once claimed, doesn't leave. It grows. And mine had just outgrown its old cage. Still, as I set the groceries on the counter, I noticed something odd in Net's bag, something that didn't belong. A bottle of red wine. My heart skipped. Net, I said slowly, you know I don't drink wine. He looked confused. I know, but you used to love this brand, you told me once. I thought maybe. I smiled faintly, shaking off the chill crawling up my neck. It's fine, I said. Old habits die hard. But as he turned away to unpack the bread, I couldn't help but glance at the label. The same brand Johnny had brought me, the night before it all began. Coincidence? I told myself. Just coincidence. Except I'd learned long ago that in my life, nothing ever was. When you've been betrayed once, you learn to look at everything twice: the smiles, the gifts, even the groceries. That bottle of red wine on my counter stared at me like an old ghost wearing a new disguise. Same label, same year, same story I thought I'd already finished. Net noticed me watching it. You okay? He asked, slicing a loaf of bread like a man who's never been suspicious in his life. Fine, I said too quickly. Just, déjà vu. He chuckled. Don't tell me I've brought the wrong vintage. I just thought it'd be nice to celebrate. Celebrate what? He smiled. You being alive, Amy. You being you. I laughed, then short, sharp, a sound with edges. Careful. Every time a man says he wants to celebrate me, I end up hiring a lawyer. He grinned, good-natured. I'll take my chances. Still, I watched him. The way he moved, relaxed, familiar. The way his eyes flicked toward the bottle, then away. And something inside me, call it the leftover detective in my bones, started to hum. He opened the fridge to put away the milk. You want me to get glasses for the wine? Sure, I said, voice steady but distant. They're in the top cabinet. While he reached, I excused myself to the living room. Quietly, I took out my phone and snapped a photo of the label. I sent it to Bruno with one line. Tell me this is just wine. Then I went back to the kitchen, smile painted back on. You know, I said casually, I never thanked you properly for showing up. Most men would have run for the hills after hearing my drama. He set two glasses down. Maybe I like drama. You wouldn't be the first, I said, but you might be the last. He poured the wine slow, careful, deliberate. My pulse beat once in my throat. He handed me a glass. To second chances, he said. I clinked mine against his. And to women who survived them, we both smiled. I didn't drink. He sipped. That's when my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I glanced down. Bruno's reply. Don't drink it. That brand was linked to a sedative case 2 years ago. Counterfeit bottles. Stay calm. My smile froze. Net set his glass down. Something wrong? Oh, nothing, I said, pretending to scroll. Just my friend Leela, reminding me I owe her a pie. She's relentless. Sounds like a good friend. The best. I leaned casually against the counter, heart steadying into a rhythm I knew well, the rhythm of women who've had enough. Tell me, Net, I said lightly, where do you find this wine? It's hard to get around here. He shrugged. Small shop on Elm. I think the guy said he got a shipment from some distributor out west. Elm Street. The same place Johnny had bought his prepaid phone. I tilted my head. Funny coincidence. Yeah, he said. Small world. Smaller than you think. He smiled again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. You always this suspicious? Only on Thursdays, I said. And whenever a man brings me DJ Vu in a bottle. He laughed, but it came out flat. I'd seen that kind of laugh before on Johnny, right before he lied. Something tightened in the air between us, invisible but undeniable. Then came the knock at the door. 3 short raps. Ned froze. You expecting someone? Yes, I said. Justice. He blinked. What? Then came the knock at the door. 3 short raps. Ned froze. You expecting someone? Yes, I said. Justice. He blinked. What? I opened the door. Bruno stepped in, his badge glinting faintly under his jacket. Evening, he said, looking at Ned with that professional calm that means I already know who you are. Ned stood slowly, every friendly muscle gone. What's this about? Bruno pulled a paper from his pocket. You go by Ned Harlan anywhere? Ned's face flickered. That was a long time ago. Not long enough, Bruno said. You've got a record fraud, fake IDs, wire transfer schemes. Been quiet the past few years though. Until now. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. Unbelievable. I should start charging tuition for all these lessons in betrayal. Ned turned to me, hands raised. Amy, it's not what you think, sweetheart, I interrupted. At my age, I don't think anymore. I know. He sighed. I was going to tell you. Eventually. Let me guess, after you cleaned out my savings or after the honeymoon. Bruno took a step forward. You're under arrest, Mr. Harlan. Attempted fraud. Possible poisoning pending the lab results on that wine. Ned's shoulders slumped. Amy, he said softly, I really did like you. I'm starting to think that's my curse, I said. Every man who says that ends up in handcuffs. He gave me a small, rueful smile as Bruno led him toward the door. You're one tough woman. I know, I said. That's why I'm still here. When the door closed behind them, the house was silent again. The kind of silence that isn't empty, it's earned. I poured both glasses of wine down the drain, watching the red swirl like old blood, and whispered to the sink, you can't poison a woman who already knows the taste. Later that night, Leela showed up with pie and profanity. You attract crooks like I attract mosquitoes, she said, throwing her purse on the table. It's a gift, I said, cutting her a slice. What now? She asked. You gonna swear off men for good? I thought about it. Maybe not. Maybe I just need to choose better lighting next time. She laughed so hard she snorted whipped cream. We ate pie, drank coffee, and watched the sun come up over the old oak. When she left, I stood alone in my kitchen, the dawn painting everything gold. I took out my red notebook, opened it to a fresh page, and wrote, Rules for Future Romance 1. Always Google him. Twice. 2. Never trust a man who calls you baby before learning your favorite pie. 3. If he offers wine, ask for water. 4. Keep the gun loaded and the coffee strong. 5. Never, ever let anyone write your ending for you. Then I put the notebook back in the drawer and smiled. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was just awake. The phone buzzed. A message from Simon. Mom, the land deal's off. I turned them down. I'm working again. I'm proud of you. I hope someday you'll be proud of me too. I stared at it for a long time, then typed back. I already am. Just don't make me regret it. Then I set the phone down, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, and sat by the window. The oak swayed, the morning birds argued like family, and the world went on loud, imperfect, beautiful. I took a deep breath and said out loud, to no one in particular, you can't keep a good woman down. You can only teach her new tricks. And somewhere, far off in that golden morning light, I swear I heard Daniel's laugh again, low, proud, and full of the kind of love no betrayal can touch. So I raised my coffee mug to the sky and toasted him, to myself, to every woman who's ever been underestimated. To Amy, I said aloud, the one who learned how to turn heartbreak into a masterclass. Then I drank deep, smiled at the sunrise, and got ready for the next chapter, whatever wild, ridiculous, beautiful thing it might be.